Dear God, what happened? Liquidity 0. 1 Warren 0. Available 0. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crypto Wave. Did a video on the Warren protocol. Been working all week and it's already gone. So, what's my opinion on it? If anybody has not paid attention, or if anybody's not in the chart, or I'm sorry, in the chat, let me fill you in kind of what transpired. And it's logically it makes sense. And then I'm gonna give you my 2 cents. I know there's some clickbait on this. Was it a rug? Was it not? What am I gonna do? Where are we at? So, first and foremost, indeed, what you're seeing is accurate. This is not a UI error. What happened? Well, you have a protocol that you put money into for 30 or 40 days, and you get a 30 or 40% payback. Well, excuse me, sorry it's late here. They had bond promotions and all kinds of things. On top of that, you had people who were getting 175% back, like myself, that in essence you put in $100, you're getting 175 back over a period of time. So each time one of those sells happened, if you rebonded, it boosted total liquidity up. You were rolling money back into the system. If you sold it, it took money out, so the liquidity went down. If Pulse pumped, liquidity would go up, because obviously our liquidity was the DAI Pulse. What ends up happening is as these 30 and 40 day bonds come to fruition, they are able to sell at a higher rate. So in essence, the Warren token itself kept going up because Pulse was pumping. Then you have these people who had bonded for 30 days or 40 days and were getting paid back 130 or 140% what they put in at a higher Warren price, pulling liquidity faster. So if you imagine, if you put in $100 and you're going to get paid back $130, but the Warren token itself price goes up because it's a DAI wrapped pulse. That DAI wrapped pulse is linked to Pulse, so as Pulse went up, the value of Warren went up. So you actually could put out, in essence, less Warren to pull the same amount of liquidity. Well, compound that all at the same time, everybody's 30 and 40 days started coming together, even regardless of the bond promotion that they did, and they're pulling in such large chunks because of that DAI Pulse increase that it started going down. And it started going down probably about a week ago. It peaked at about 1.8, 1.9, if I remember right, when Pulse was really pumping, and then it pulled back down to about 1.1. Well, what I'm guessing transpired is people saw $800,000 drop, which necessarily wasn't from people selling, but more the fact that Pulse was then dipping again. So what ended up happening is people started pulling that weren't staked or whatever the case was, which then created that perfect snowball effect. People began pulling their dividends, so to speak, if their 30 and 40 day ended, or started selling instead of rebonding from their stakes. And so that pulled liquidity down even further. Well, the tricky part is every time a sell happened, the contract was designed that if you sold, say, 100 of the Warren token or wrapped Pulse DAI, so $100 worth, it would actually pull $105 or roughly, and then take that $5 and buy Warren token, bringing the price up. So now you have people selling as price is going up. The price keeps going up. People want to sell to get their gains. Compounding that with as liquidity goes down because people are selling and price going up, more and more people, perfect storm, and the entire thing got emptied. So, is this a rug? No. And if you go into the chat, there is a lot of debate, and I can address some of these things that they talk about. There's a lot of sour people in here, and let me be perfectly clear. I was actually going to do a video last night I literally, if you look over here, one day, okay, I put my brick in. I had actually saved my stake value and had enough wrap die pulse to double my position because I was shooting for that 100,000 position. Literally last night, I put this in. I did not see it going this way. Am I hurt that it went this way? No. Am I sad that I lost some money? Of course, you want gains. You want to be able to pull out what you put into it. Do I blame the developers? No. The contracts did exactly what the contracts were designed to do. What killed it, and there's a big debate in the chat right now, is human nature. And if you guys have followed me for a while, you know my channel. I'm never going to fault people for taking gains. It is your crypto. It is your money. If you invested in a 30-day bond and you waited to that day 30 and you pulled it out and you didn't turn back, good on you. If you were somebody like myself, I personally thought this was going to go 3 to 6 months, to be honest with you. It had all the workings. Everything was clicking and jamming all in the same wheels. I thought 4 to 6 months. Otherwise, obviously, I would not have put this in here. I saw the dip. I wasn't concerned about the dip. I figured there was a particular amount of people that were, cashing out their stakes or selling their stakes on top of those who had 30 and 40-day bonds that ended and took their profits. But I didn't see the cascading effect coming, and I should have. But I've been in a lot of these ROI dApps. And when you go in here and you see the people who are supporting and you see the people who are upset and those that are wanting payment back and to be made whole and all these kinds of things, it's just not going to happen. It's not logically going to happen. In fact, there was somebody in here earlier that was trying to attribute it to we need more regulation and the devs should have predicted human behavior and all this kind of stuff. You got to think about it logically, guys. You cannot, nobody, I don't care who you are, what you do for a living, you cannot predict human behavior. We will never. I don't care about Neuralink. I don't care about Elon Musk. I don't care about any of this kind of stuff. You are not going to predict human nature. You just never will. We never will. So get that out of your head right away. That's the entire meaning of human nature is the independence and the free will that human nature comes with. The contract was designed in a particular way, and it worked exactly as it was designed. It just so happens that the perfect storm happened. Now, for all those people that are saying they want it kept whole, from the beginning, there was this treasury that was being built up by all the buys and sells and things. In fact, the developers put their earnings into that treasury to do rehypothecation. Excuse me, to do rehypothecation. It was never stated that the treasury was going to be used to pay for anybody or pay anybody anything. It was going to be utilized as the treasury to further solidify rehypothecation, to generate passive income on the back end so that passive income could help promote and support and fund further development, whether it be on the Warren token itself, should it have lasted, or onto the layer 2, which is in works, or whatever else they had planned in coming. To ask them to take that treasury and pay everybody out, one, is just illogical. The amount of people who had money in versus how much is in that treasury, you would be getting probably 1/100th of a penny per dollar. So you want to be paid back, what, $3 on your stake, to stick it to them and erase any potential for any further development, especially development that we know is still in the works. This team has been completely transparent, including the layer 2 that they're working on, as well as the bond promotion, which they did announce the winners and such of. So NFTs will be coming for that layer 2. Secondly, decentralization is intended to disrupt the typical economy, in my opinion. To ask for the government to come in and regulate, I get where you're coming from. Let them regulate on the centralized side of things. Let them regulate on the BlackRocks, and let them regulate on the ETFs, and let them regulate on the Coinbases and the Binances and all these centralized entities. The entire purpose, or one of the entire purposes of the decentralization when crypto first came to be and Bitcoin came to be, go look up the history. It was intended to allow people to be their own bank. It was intended to take out the middleman and take out the banks. You were able to transfer a sum from one person to another using a trustless system. Trustless meaning you didn't have to go through a large bank that could control, regulate, or dictate how much you could or could not spend, or even freeze your accounts. Is there flaws with this? There is. There's some flaws with it in regards to, you know, unsavory characters on black web and dark web and all those other kinds of things. But for the most part, decentralization is still growing, and it will regulate itself in a way through the smart contract utilization. However, you will not predict how it interacts. If you've been in crypto as long as I have, you've been through these ROI dApps. And it's cliche, but it has to be said. You shouldn't be putting money in here that you're afraid to lose, because you're right. Could this have been a rug? Absolutely. Was it a rug? It was not. The team has been open, honest, transparent, thorough, building. They've been adapting. They have been consistent. They have been doing AMAs. They even came out to just get completely reamed by some people in the chat to explain exactly what transpired. Even in traditional marketing, with SEC regulation and all these fancy things, you can still invest into something that is unsuccessful. If it was as easy as people putting money into startups in order to get their return on investment or then some, no matter what, every single time, no questions asked, I'm going to be made whole if you fail as a company, well, then what would be the point of the stock market at that point? The entire industry is built on people predicting, guessing, human nature, quarterly earnings, interest rates, recessions, all these kinds of things all play a part in it. Nobody is going to tell you, as an investor, whether it be on their traditional centralized system, NASDAQ, whatever you want to call it, and decentralized, that you should expect a return of profit. And anybody who's on the Pulse chain and follows Richard Hart knows that's exactly what he says. You cannot have a guaranteed return of profit. So you can't come into the chat if something didn't work and people pulled their money out and be upset. Well, let me correct that. You can go into this chat and you can be upset that people pulled their money out and you didn't get your ROI back, because you didn't. I get it. You can be upset. You lost money. I lost money. I put in a chunk. I doubled up my position specifically because I had faith that this thing was going to last. And you know what? I made the wrong call. Nobody forced my hand. Nobody convinced me. This was me, my thought, my research, my gut, and it was wrong. Okay? That's it. Move on. Don't throw it at, don't sit here and think that you should be made whole by the developer. That's, tell me the last time that a company failed and the CEO went to all the investors and gave them all of his money to make them whole. I don't know of one in history. Maybe there's somebody that did that, but highly unlikely. So stop trying to rag on the devs. I've seen rug pulls before. I realize that this kind of looks like one, but I'm going to tell you from experience, this is not a rug pull. So pick up your britches. I know it sucks. Stop blaming others, okay? It worked exactly as it's intended to work. We all would have loved it to work longer. Otherwise, we wouldn't have put our funds into it. But it didn't. Let's wait for layer 2. Let's see what the NFTs are going to do. Let's see what the next contract is. When the next contract comes out, let's look at it, just like we did this one. We don't know the tokenomics of it yet. We don't know what it's supposed to do. We don't know what kind of interaction it's going to require. Make your judgment call at that time, okay? I'm not saying I'm automatically going to go into it, but I will tell you this. If it looks good, I trust this team. I trust these devs. I completely supported Warren. I think it could have went a lot better. Human choice caused it to dip, and here we are. So that's all I got to say about that. I hope it makes sense. This isn't meant to be negative. This isn't meant to be positive. This is just supposed to be a neutral analysis of what transpired, and just tell everybody to kind of just take a step back. And I realize, acknowledge, your frustrations and anger, but at the same time, don't sling mud. Okay, this is where we're at. Support or move on. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in.